Psychologists have a term that they've been using more and more. It's called deferred loneliness. Deferred loneliness. What's up with deferred loneliness? Deferred loneliness is you're lonely, but you pretend you're not by interacting socially with a lot of people. But you can trick your mind into think, oh yeah, I'm busy with all kinds of people. I'm a little social butterfly. But it doesn't fix the condition of the heart and the mind. You really are lonely. You're just masking it, or you're just drugging it, or you're playing games to make you think. But it's called deferred loneliness. And the third way that technology is changing relationships is how we have the power to do friendship on our own terms. Now, it used to be when you had a friend, they would drag you places that were a misery. You would see them make bad decisions. They would do stuff that was embarrassing. All those kinds of things, take you all through those experiences. And what happens at the end of it? You're still friends. You might have learned a couple of things, but you're still friends. In this day and age, we have this emerging attitude of, I don't have to be friends with anybody that doesn't feed me, that doesn't please me. And on social media, we have all kinds of little ways of doing it. You can unfriend them, which is kind of violent. No more of you. Or we can just unfollow them, and they don't even know. They think you're watching them, but you're not. You never see them, don't have a clue. You could block them, and they won't know that you've been blocked from their website. And so it's just this whole, I will have my friends on my terms, the way I define it to be. And if you don't fall into this little make me happy mode, we're over. We'll just take, and you won't even know. It'll just be all on my side. So we really have taken control of that. I have a good friend. His name's Doug Lane. And Doug Lane pastors a church in Florida on the other side of the world. And Doug and I used to pastor almost in the same town. We were like 3 miles apart, 2 different little towns in Maine. And we were just starting out. Our churches were tiny. We'd call each other up and try to compare, who had more people in church. And for a long time, Doug was beating me by about 5 people or so, just every Sunday. And of course, when you're winning, you're the one that feels the need to make the phone call, right, to get the numbers. Yeah, that was always happening. And then the greatest thing on earth happened. He had a giant family in his church, 11 people. And one Sunday, they decided to not go to Doug's church, but to come over to Greg's church. And so I had 11 people come on over, scoot over to my church. Doug didn't call that day. Doug! I called Doug. How many people did you have today? And I had 5 or 6 more than he did. Oh, we had so much fun. And now we're trying to keep that family of our church. And it was a lot of fun. Let me tell you what happened one day when I was in a really bad mood. I have no memory why I was in a bad mood, but I was, because I remember very precisely what I did. And I regret it with every fiber of my being. One day, Doug was in my office, and I don't remember what happened, but all of a sudden, I started complaining to him about him. And I started naming all these annoying things about him. And he was like taken aback. And I'm just going on, I'm just letting into him. I have no idea what got in my head to do that. Maybe it was one of those lessons that once you do it once, you never do it again, kind of a thing. But I kind of felt safe with Doug because we're both pastors, we've been good friends. Whatever it was, I decided to tell him everything that was wrong with him. And he stopped at some point, and he said, Greg, I want you to know that our friendship is very, very strong. And even though you are upset with me about many things, I want you to know that our friendship will completely outlast this mood you're in. I just want you to know that. My jaw dropped. I had never heard anything more beautiful in all my life. I was so moved by that. Of course, I've never forgotten it, right? And man alive, am I a good friend to Doug? You better believe it. Everything I can do to show friendship and love and appreciation to Doug, I do that as much as I can. And he's always been a great friend like that. He didn't unfriend me. He didn't unfollow me. He didn't block me. He hung in there. And I think that's a small example of what the Bible means when it talks about being friends and having relationships with people and making life together. One thing that's interesting with social media is that even though it's as prevalent as it is, the people who are most involved in it still feel as empty as can be. Social media wants you to crave, causes you to crave friends, But at the same time, it leaves you in that moment where I don't really have any friends. I wish I did. I wish I had better relationships. So what does the Bible say about getting to this phony world where we just pretend and trick our minds into thinking we're okay, to actually moving over to where we actually do have friends and are investing our lives in things that are not just dopamine inducing, but are really life investing and have an eternal quality and purpose to them? How is it we go from point A to point B? Well, the big picture here is called practicing the presence. It's practice the power of presence. Practicing the power of presence. And I want to bring your attention to Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25. Now, look how this starts. Look how this verse, it's amazing. I love how this starts. Let us think of ways. So it's telling us as a congregation, as a group of people, because this is who this letter is to, a bunch of actually young people. It's a letter. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. What a great church meeting. Let's get together and put our heads together and strategize and find ways to motivate each other to acts of love and good works. What a good church service. What a great Bible study. How wonderful that we are investing, these guys are investing their lives into motivating people in this way. And let us not neglect commenting on the posts of our Facebook friends, as some people do. I was just joking. Some of you are thinking, well, yeah, there he is, reading the Bible again. I'm not reading the Bible, I made that up. And let us not neglect meeting together, as some people do, but encourage one another. Let us not neglect meeting together. Let us not neglect meeting together. You know what's happening in the church across the country? Attending church is becoming less and less of a priority. People still attend church, but in the old days it was like every Sunday and every Wednesday. And it's kind of fallen back, right? And now, you know what? Somebody will say, yeah, I go to church. You go to church a lot? I go to church all the time. How many times do you go to church? Oh, once or twice a month. And then that kind of qualifies for that. But the Bible says, let us not neglect meeting together. Why is that? Because for the Christian today, there is nothing more important than these face-to-face relationships. So, I want you guys to repeat after me a very good phrase, okay? Let us love one another, not with thumbs, but face-to-face. All right, let's say it. Let us love one another, not with thumbs, but face to face. That's good. That's how we as Christians are supposed to interrelate with each other, is personally, one-on-one, face to face. Now, why is it that we relate, the Bible says that we relate best face to face personally with each other? Because that's how God best relates to you and to me. We start out way back in the Garden of Eden. How did it start? Adam and Eve, and there's God walking in the garden. And it wasn't until sin came that separated that. And it separated it for a long time. So for another several thousand years, about 4,000 years of recorded history, what happened was God would send a text message, so to speak. He would send an email, or he would call one or two other people. And he would say, this is what my message is to my people. And then that person would say, this is what God is saying. And that's basically the entire Old Testament. And so for a long time, that's how it happened. That was good, right? But it wasn't the very best. The very best is when, in the New Testament, at the very beginning, when God says, I'm going to go down there personally. I'm going to go meet with my people face to face. We're going to work this thing out and see how we can get this thing working. And so that's what God did. He came down face to face, met with the people, and he said, now things are going to be different. When he came and met with us face to face, did he go to the rich? Did he go to the powerful? No, he went to the poor. He went to the powerless. He went to the sick. He went to the most lost. That's who he engaged with one-on-one. And that's still what he does today. Jesus himself comes to us in his spirit and meets with us face to face. The Bible, Jesus said, where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am with them also. So you can imagine, anytime we come together, we have the presence, the very real presence of Jesus with us. It's important to God to meet us face to face. It's what God has brought humanity to, is a face-to-face encounter. How important then is it for us to meet God face to face? God no longer shouts it out of heaven down to people. This is the way, go here, go there. That's not how he does it anymore. Now he shows people. He shows people by the example that we had in Jesus. Shows people by the example that we have in others who love God with all of their heart. He shows us this is how we are to live with each other. And isn't that Jesus' name that we hear so often, even at Christmas time? Emmanuel. What does that mean? It means God with us. Face to face, God with us. God has made his presence now with us. And that's where God is in our hearts and in our lives with us right now. And that's the big thing about God. Now, I want to make this practical. So if God is all about presence, how is it that we take this to the next step here? And let me take you to the next verse that we have. And the next verse is Romans chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. And look at this. This is practical. There's two things I'm going to say about the practicality of it. The first one is be present. Be present. And this is the verse. Don't just pretend to love others. What? What do you mean pretend? Who says anybody's pretending? Isn't that weird? How even way back, just after the time of Jesus in the very first church, very first Christians in Rome, Paul has to write to them because why? He has seen some pretending going on. He's seen some people that really don't care about other people, but when they get together, oh, I'm so glad to see you again. It's been so long, blah, 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 right? And then nothing much happening. That's where God brings this whole thing into. Let us, don't just pretend to love others. I love this. Really love them. Really, really love them. And this is a call for you and for me to examine our hearts and say, what does it mean for me to pretend that I love someone? And what does it mean for me to really love someone? What's the difference in how I relate to people? How does one go to the other? And this one says, love each other with genuine affection. What does it mean for me to love someone with genuine affection? And take delight in honoring each other. And take delight in honoring each other. Move in that direction. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them. When God's people are in need. That's what it's about. It's about coming together, genuinely affection, showing honor to each other, taking delight in that, but really loving people, really loving people. I don't know what that means for you in particular in your situation. I know in my life what it means. I've had people, when I've gone through a hard time, what they'll do is they'll send me a text. Hey, Greg, just want to know how you're going. How's it going? Just this week, I had on Facebook, I had a little memories thing pop up, and it said 5 years ago. And this lady that I used to know from a previous church in New York, she sent me, says, Greg, just want you to know. And this is after I'd gone through a whole phase of misery. Just want you to know I'm thinking about you, hope you're doing well. Now, isn't that nice? Somebody's thinking about me. Does it matter? Not really. I'm so happy you're thinking about me. Thank you for thinking about me. Well, what do you do with that? I don't know. Be grateful, I guess, but it doesn't make any change. But then a little bit better than that. That's good, but better than that is what? Is when somebody actually uses their smartphone to do what very few people know it does anymore, make a phone call. And they actually call you. Man, I've had the benefit of people calling me at just the right moment. Let me tell you what, that is a lot better. I really appreciate when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Greg, just thought I'd give you a call. I haven't talked to you in a long time. Worried about this or that. And just want to catch up on you. Man, I really like that. It's much better. But what's the very best? The very best is when you actually go outside, open your car door, get in, spend some gas, spend some time, and get your way over to see somebody. That's what really makes the difference. When you get it, that is the very best you can do. And isn't that kind of what God did when very at the beginning, and then towards the end did something a little bit better, but then, boy, at the very end, He came all the way here to earth. So we do so much better when we go and stand there with somebody and interact face to face with them. Man, the benefit, I have seen people, their lives are completely changed when unexpectedly somebody from the church shows up in the hospital room. And what's the thing that the patient always says? You didn't need to come. You're very busy. I can't believe you're here. You shouldn't be here. They always say that, right? But way down deep, what are they also saying? Wow, you came to visit me? Why would you do that? It's just me. I didn't know anybody cared. And that's kind of what they're saying on the inside. Boy, to just be there. I've been in moments in people's lives that are just horrendous. And I don't have that natural pastoral gift that so many pastors have. I missed that class in seminary where you walk in and then everybody around the bed goes, ooh, right? The pastor's arrived. Nobody says that when I get there. They say, can you get some more water? I get there, and then they're standing there. I don't know what to read. When I'm going up the elevator, I'm just raking my brain. I'm looking through a bunch of verses I use at this time. I'm a nervous wreck. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? I get up there, I kind of spill something out, and people are just so nice about it. And then I kind of get my way back in the elevator and disappear again, and off I go. And then what do I hear for years later? Man, that was really great. You were there when I needed you to be. Now, I'm not always there when you need me to be, but I have learned the power of presence, of actually being there one-on-one, face-to-face, not calling it in, but actually going and spending some time. Man, the things people have done in my life to come all the way to me, and the things that I've done in other people's lives, to be there when they time of need. I had a good friend, and his wife had a terrible affair with their daughter's soccer coach. And the wife decided that was where she was going to go. She was going to run off with the soccer coach and left my friend out hanging to dry. Well, a little bit of time goes by. Next thing you know, he has to move out. Lost everything. And now I'm across the country from him. This is another friend of mine, Dave Larish. And so what do? I'm thinking, well, I'm going to call Dave, tell him how sorry I am. What can I do? At some point, you know what? I got to go. I get in an airplane, I fly all the way over, and at that time they were living in Springfield, Massachusetts. Get off the plane, go. What a crazy moment. I'm thinking, well, maybe the Lord will use me to bring the family back together. I'm a pastor, that could happen. Oh no, that didn't happen at all. What I ended up doing was helping him move out of his apartment, carrying couches and beds down stairwells and up stairwells and trying to get us acclimated to his new situation. Remember the first night in his new apartment. Oh, he's just crying. That's a hard time. Man, I was crying such a hard time for me. See a family break up, what do you do? Well, you know what? We've remained friends so beautifully. And in my time of greatest need, who do you think called me out? Hey, Greg, come live with me. David Larish. David Larish. You know what? I think God plants those seeds. God makes those relationships. We don't have a clue why God brings people together. But God has a purpose and a reason for bringing us together with certain people. At the time, we might judge it one way, but we would be wrong. Let it go into God's hands, because over time, God will bring that relationship all the way around, and it'll be a vital relationship at the very most needed time in your life. God does that. He surprises us by how people step in and continue to reciprocate the friendship that they were shown. And many times they reciprocate with far greater effort and sacrifice than you ever did. And you step back, and all you can do is be amazed and grateful for the friendships that God has given us, God has given you and me in our lives. So that's the first one. Be present. Be in there. And here's the second one. Be engaged. 1 Peter 4:8 says it so succinctly here. Most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other. Most important of all, if we're going to be engaged, show deep love for each other. Man alive, how I like that. How I like that. Not just show deep love physically, but emotionally, to be fully engaged with people. I have a little video. Is that video okay to go? I think that was a thumbs up. Some of you might have seen this. Do you ever have a situation like that? That's kind of common, isn't it? These little devices, they are just so encompassing. You know what I love about my smartphone? I love that I am fully engaged with the whole world at any moment. Yeah, all 24/7. I absolutely love that because I love my work. I love strategy. I love developing. I love working. I love asking people this, trying to get this together. I absolutely enjoy that. And every once in a while, when I am sitting at dinner with my wife and the conversation kind of goes into a lull, what am I tempted to do? Right? You know, there's a new word. They call this FOMO. You guys know what FOMO is? Fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. What could be happening in my little extenuating world that I'm not in on? Did somebody say something clever or funny that I don't know about immediately? And just that constant desire to go over there and grab that. Isn't that right? You can go to any restaurant and look around and just watch. And you'll see a couple. And what are they doing? Right? It is so common. Be at a stoplight. Can you even be at a stoplight in San Jose without looking and seeing at least a couple people on their cell phones? No, you can't. How many times have we driven down 101 and seen people? Right? It must be so fun to be a cop. Drive up right beside them, right? Be staring at them. Oh, that would be fun. But we are so engaged with that. We completely ignore and are distracted by what is going on right in front of us. Meanwhile, when we're trying to catch up on all the latest news and polls and jokes and pictures, we have a human being that's 1 minute older, another minute older. Life is going by. Deadlines are coming up. Separations are imminent. We miss out on the most important things. I was driving down the 101 the other day, and I had Ami in the passenger seat, and there was an accident, and I had all my attention on what was going on in that accident. And I wanted to see that accident, I wanted to understand it, and I wanted to feel bad for them. And I'm driving like that when a car cut me off. They tried to get around me to get off the exit that I was going to get off. I don't know how I didn't hit that car, but it scared me to death. You know, when you have a moment like that, you're like, woo, you know? And I realized I was so distracted by that accident on the side of the road, I almost had an accident because I wasn't considering a whole field of vision. 360 degrees around me. I was just considering one specific point. And I thought about that, and I said, you know, that illustrates and expresses so much of life, where something crazy can happen over here, and all of our attention, whoop, and then we completely miss everything else. You ever see a really great magician's act? What do? They get you to look right here while they're doing something over there. And I think so often in our own lives, in our relationships, we become so disengaged with 350 degrees onto the 10 degrees that we totally miss that. And I would say, you know what, at some point, let the lull happen. Let the lull happen. When that little cell phone whistles or buzzes or rings, whatever it is, let it whistle, buzz, or ring. Whatever it wants to do, but boy, be engaged. Sometimes parents will say, it's so hard with our kids. It's terribly difficult with our... Yes, it is terribly hard. I can't imagine trying to create a conversation that a kid would find exciting today. But I would say there is great reward in making that effort of raising the level of that engagement somehow to surpass what the little digital ones and zeros are doing in their brains. Somehow find ways, be persistent, make rules. Maybe there's rules that after this time, no more. Oh, I got caught in the funniest situation. Late at night, the Cardenas, a wonderful, wonderful family in our church, they help us with janitorial things here at the church. And on Saturday night, that's our latest night. And they usually stay here, 1, 2 in the morning. They invited me a month out to go to IHOP with them for after work. And I'm thinking, 2 in the morning, IHOP? Well, I can't say no, it's pancakes. So we all go, we're sitting there at IHOP. And as soon as we get there, there's like 5 family members. They all take their cell phones out, and mom and dad's about 7 cell phones, and they all put them in the middle of the table, and they just stack them. And then they all looked at me. Well, I took my cell phone out, and I put it on the table. And then Mario, the father, explained. He says, the reason we do that is so we can have some family time together, and we appreciate you doing this. So the deal is, if your phone rings and you answer it, you pay for everybody. That's just the rule we have. I'm good with that. Yeah, that sounds good. I don't have to answer this. Well, whose phone do you think started ringing? I'm not paying for everybody. Ring all you want. I order my stuff. A few moments later, rings again. I wonder if that's on me. No, I'm not paying for everybody. A few minutes later, rings again. I wonder if somebody's in the hospital. I wonder if that something's burning. I wonder if that's the alarm company at the church. I'm not paying for anybody. They're going to ring all at once. Next time it rang, all right, I got to figure who this thing out. It was one of their kids. I had been set up. He's over there under the table texting me. Yeah, evil family. They thought that was the funniest thing on earth. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, that's what they did. But being engaged, right? Sitting there. I had another horrible incident where I met with a really great pastor, J.P. Samuels, here in town. And again, I picked up my phone. You know what he did? He sent me an email with a book about how to take fasting from your cell phone and from social media. He said, while I was talking to you, you went to your phone so many times. I said, yeah, I did. I thought since we were both working, we could just figure that in. But he kind of understood a deeper level of it, that no, you really can't. You really do have to be engaged face to face, figure out what's going on. They say 80% of kids go to bed with their cell phones. Isn't that weird? 80% actually sleep in there with your cell phone, just in case. How many of us are in bed with our spouse, and we're sitting there and we're both on our cell phones? Let me tell you, it's bad when you text your spouse. Are you in the mood? That's when you know it's bad. And they text back, #headache. Well, that's the end of that. Right? But we got to keep going. 1 John 3:18. Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. Let's not merely say that we love each other. Let me tell you what, where does this begin? It begins with us as individuals. A lot of times I kind of feel a responsibility to have a church that has a perfect structure, that all you have to do is step in, and now if you step into this small group, or you step into this ministry or this team, now you can just go out from there and be loving. But you know what? All the years I've pastored, I've never been able to give the leadership necessary to create a perfect structure like that. And you know what? I don't think God depends on the pastor to create a perfect structure for this to happen. What I think it happens is that God works in the hearts of each one of us. Because every church I've been to, I have been amazed and so grateful for the very, very, very loving people that work in spite of whatever shortcomings I provide as a pastor. And they are incredibly loving and accepting and welcoming to people. Follow up. Those are the friends that say, our friendship is far more important than your bad mood. We're going to stick it out together. It's going to be worth it. These people. And I encourage each of us, you know what? As much as you can work within the church, please do. But as much as you can do it personally. And don't pretend and don't just say that you love others. But you show the truth by your actions. Show the truth by your actions. Man, when you do that, you've really connected with what Jesus was trying to do and what he really only cared about in reaching us. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone, the Sikhs, the atheists, everyone, your co-workers will know that you're my disciples. When you love one another, that's what it comes down to. Face to face, loving, engaging people's lives. Take the time, make the sacrifice, pay the price. Do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, have that clarity with God to say, God, I did my best to prove myself that I loved them and I really cared about them. And I tried, I didn't hold anything back. I went through everything you asked me to do. Let that be. And God said, yeah, you sure did. Thank you very much for that. It's worth it. Let God do that in your own heart. Jesus came down. You can go. Amen.